Hello, welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith. Welcome if you're new here. You are watching reading vlog number 23, I believe. It is another slightly shorter reading vlog for today. It is Tuesday. Normally we start on a Monday, but yesterday was a bank holiday and I was still in the north. It was very beautiful. I would highly recommend a trip to the north if you are not already there. I did get some reading done. I finished Blackwater Sister, but by the time you are watching this, my May wrap-up will be up because I've just scheduled it for Thursday. If you want to hear about things that I read over the weekend, including a couple of things that weren't necessarily planned in, you can go and watch that. That would be a wonderful thing for you to do. It is a brand new month. It is Pride Month. It is also the month of my Book a Day in June reading challenge, or as I abbreviate it in all of my notes, Badage. I have 7 books that I want to read this week because that's how that works. And as you'll see, maybe, if you can tell, maybe. I basically set it up so I have little grids with all the books split into fifths, and I'm going to try and read 5 fifths every day is kind of my aim, so that I can mix things up and still stay on track with things and know when I'm ahead and when I'm not ahead without having to just read one thing at a time, because at the moment I'm in a very read everything all at once kind of mood, and I find it very much helping at the present time. I'm going to try that for 2 weeks, and if in 2 weeks I'm feeling really burned out, I'm going to switch back to 1 book every day, and we'll see how we go. But I have a few things. First up, I want to finish She Who Became the Sun. I did read up to the halfway point while I was away because I thought, why not? I'm very much enjoying that so far. It's sort of a historical-ish fantasy, and so far we have a girl who has taken on her brother's identity and gone and become a monk. The monastery was then destroyed, and there's a lot of big war stuff happening, which isn't usually my favourite thing, but I think I like the characters so much that I am actually enjoying it. I have absolutely no idea where it's going to go, but I'm letting it take me where it will and trying not to get too caught up in things that I probably don't need to understand in a great amount of detail and can research later if I want to. That's where I'm at with that one. The other 2 things that I've made a start on, this actually wasn't on my plan for this week, but I went for a walk this morning and I wanted an audiobook, and Cemetery Boys is on Scribd, so I thought I would pick that up. I am on chapter 2 of that. I think I've just finished chapter 2. I am adoring this so far. It's one of those ones that I know I've been sat on for way too long. So far, young trans main character, trans man, has done a ritual that his family was not willing to do because they weren't fully accepting of him yet, that he should have got to do as a younger man, and something bad has happened and I don't know what yet. So that's very exciting. I mean, it's in the blurb, but I'm going to say I don't know what yet. So that I'm working on, and I also yesterday on a whim read the first 72 pages of Foundryside. This I'm really enjoying as well. Sanchia, not Sansia, which I think I said in my TBR, helpfully it has a character explain how to pronounce the character's name, which I always love. Interesting magic system. It feels very reminiscent of a lot of other big fantasy stuff that I've read. City focused, always a thing I enjoy. We shall see, we shall see. I think I thought that was older than it was. It's only from 2018. I don't know why my brain thought it was from like the early 2000s. Not sure. Also, I have Vampires Never Get Old, which is already out, which is why I am trying to read it sooner rather than later. This is a collection of vampire short stories. And then I also have Bargain in Silver by Josie Jaffrey. This is the first book in the Solace Invicti stories books. That was the word I was looking for there. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and read one of these a week because that feels sensible. And this is the first one. I haven't started it yet. The other thing that I haven't started, 2 other things that I haven't started, 3 other things that I haven't started, yes, are Animorphs 22, goes without saying. That's a video that needs to go up this month, so I need to get to that. 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, which is hard to say. And A Psalm for the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers, which is my short win for the week. Hopefully. I'm very, very much looking forward to that, and I think I'm going to save that for later in the week when I just need to finish a book. I have blithered for too long already, and I need to get back to work. I just wanted to stop in and start off the week, because otherwise I would definitely forget. So, I shall speak to you when I next speak to you. Welcome. Let's go. Hi, happy Wednesday, day 2 of Book a Day in June. Am I going to update you every single day? Probably not. Let's start, because I finished 1 book. I finished She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan, and I thought it was great. Am I going to sit here and pretend that I understood every single moment of it? Absolutely not. I'm not. A lot of the military stuff went over my head. I forgot who a lot of the characters were, as is my way with this kind of fantasy story. But did I enjoy the character journey nonetheless? Yes, I did. Do I now need to go down a hole of research about the historical events that inspired the book? Absolutely, yes, I do. I actually really like a book that lets me then go down a historical avenue with my head, so that's always good. I thought it was incredibly well written. It lived up to the hype that I had set for it. I'd say it perfectly met my expectations. It didn't run away with them. I wasn't mind blown at all of it, but I had a very good time. I really liked the story doesn't get bogged down in places. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It time skips when it needs to time skip, and it focuses when it needs to focus, and it can mean that a few bits feel a tiny bit disjointed, but if I had to read, you know, we were all miserable, it was winter and we couldn't do any warfaring, I probably would have stopped enjoying the book. So, something can be said for a tight edit. I haven't finished anything else, but I have made progress on 4 other things, I think. So I am 160 pages into A Bargain in Silver. Somebody tell me why I thought this was ancient Roman. It's not. It's dystopian, if anything. Why? But I am enjoying it. Vampires, good stuff. So essentially, so far, our main character is in a world, which is in London. Basically, the vampires say, everything's gone terrible, the bad vampires have come, you all need to go into safety and come live with us and we'll protect you from the evil vampires, but you will have to give us your blood. That's about as far as we've got. That's most of what's happening. It's Josie, so there's going to be some romance. It's going to be a good time. I don't have much more to say on that one. I'll probably do a wrap up in a few weeks when I've finished the whole series. Vampires Never Get Old. I am 130 or so pages into. I have so far enjoyed, I would say, probably half of the stories. Let me see. What did I enjoy? I really liked Senior Year Sucks, which is Vampire Slayer inspired, and I really liked a guidebook for the newly sired Desi vampire. I have a few more to go. I'm about to get to Laura Ruby, Mark Arisho, Daniel Clayton, and V.E. Schwab, so we shall see. It's, again, doing about what I expected of it, and I am 220 pages through Foundryside, which is probably the book I'm enjoying the most at the moment. I'm a sucker for a plucky thief and a cool magic system, what can I say? So the magic system in this is scriving, which is essentially putting glyphs, they're not glyphs, but you know what I mean. I can't remember what they actually call them. Putting those on objects to convince the objects that they are something other than what they actually are. So, for example, you could convince a piece of metal that it is not in fact stationary in the air, but it is falling from a very great height in the direction that you throw it, and that will make it speed up to terminal velocity immediately. So yeah, that kind of thing. It's very interesting. There's a lot of logic to it. Very, very cool. And we're getting into the kind of inner workings of that magic system fairly early on, which I very much enjoy. I like not having to wait till a later book in a series to learn how things work. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes and play with that a bit more. Haven't read any more of Cemetery Boys. Have read about the first fifth or so of Six Crimson Cranes. It's fine. Again, I like the magic. That's very interesting. And the idea of a princess with forbidden magic is always kind of fun to deal with. And we've had some of the fairy tale elements already brought in, which I always appreciate, and I appreciate myself for recognising them. I don't think I have too much to say on that one at this point. I think it's going to depend how the main character deals with the situation she's now in. Are we going to have another set of naive main characters that I don't particularly appreciate, like in May, or is she going to fight for herself? And we shall see, we shall see. What's interesting is embroidery has featured a lot in this book at the start, certainly. I think it's probably not going to be there from then on, but I found that interesting because Elizabeth Lim's first series, Spin the Dawn, was about tailoring, sewing connections. I appreciate it as somebody who is in the middle of sewing something that's taking a long time at the moment. That's where I'm at with things, and other than that, that's basically all I've been doing with my life these last couple of days, that and trying not to overheat. But we are due for storms and rain this afternoon, so we'll see if that mellows out a little bit. But yeah, I would like to get another chunk of Vampires Never Get Old done today. I think I'm just going to keep going. Right, it's time for tea. Happy Thursday. Yes, I've got very confused this week because the month started on a Tuesday and my vlog started on a Tuesday, so I'm like one day shunted the wrong way, but it's fine. If you can hear background noise, my window's open. It's too hot for anything else. A very literal take on Hot Girl Summer. Yes, I'm wearing a turtleneck and velvet. Let's not talk about it. I finished a book yesterday. We are still on track. I finished Vampires Never Grow Old. This is a collection of short stories about vampires. I've probably already mentioned it in this vlog. I would say that overall, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good take. I probably could have done without the commentary parts, personally, just because I found the kind of questions they were posing a little bit kind of... Is trite the right word? If you were turned into a vampire, what is one thing about yourself you wouldn't change? And it's interesting to pose as a thought if you were reading this as maybe a group, but when you're just on your own, you're kind of like, I don't know, don't ask me any questions. I want to move on to the next story about vampires. There were some that I really enjoyed. I really liked Mirrors, Windows and Selfies, which is written as like a series of Tumblr posts, which is cool. I liked The House of Black Sapphires by Daniel Clayton. I thought that was very good. I liked a lot of these. Some of them were a bit misses for me. If you are keen to explore these authors, if there's an author in here that you really like, pick it up. I don't know if I would go out and buy it for myself, but maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. My Kindle is here to remind me to talk about Six Crimson Cranes, which I am 40% of the way through, 42%, something like that. It feels like a lot has happened and simultaneously not very much has happened. It's one of those kinds of stories where you flip a page and you're something like, oh, hang on a minute, no, quite a big event has occurred and I wasn't really paying attention, and that might be on me, but also I think I remember it happening in Spin the Dawn a little bit as well, and it just feels like what I expect to be big plot moments don't feel big, which is interesting. I'm still liking the main character. I'm interested to see where this book ends. I don't know if this is a standalone or not, but I'll be interested because a lot of the things that I would have predicted to happen quite late in the book are happening quite early in the book. So we shall see. But yeah, I'm keeping going with that one. I've made more progress on Foundryside. I am 324 pages into this. I love it. Again, I'm still loving that magic system. What has just happened is a character has been told that she should do a thing and she has said no. And if you've read the book, you'll know all about that. I don't think that's going to be a spoiler, but I'm finding that very interesting as a character trait. So I'm going to see how that resolves. Keeping on with that. And the book that I think I'm going to finish today, because I only have a tiny bit left, is Bargain in Silver by Josie Jaffrey. A Bargain in Silver? Yes. I'm quite glad that I own the rest of them because I don't feel like a huge amount has happened in this book. I mean, the world has completely changed, but for our main character, not a lot of time has passed. We haven't seen much development from anyone because it's over a really short period of time. Reminds me of Nocturna. Was that the book where everything takes place over like 3 days? And I was kind of like, oh, this makes everything feel 10 times more intense. Do I think this main character is making good choices? Absolutely not. Am I interested to see where those choices pan out over the course of 4 books? Yes, I am. So we're keeping going with that as well. I finished a perfume today. That's another exciting thing. I think a few months ago I finished a lip balm. I finished a perfume. That never happens. That's everything I wanted to talk about. I'm going to go sit back in front of my fan and enjoy the rest of my day. Hello, happy Friday. It is Friday evening, so enjoy this exceptional side lighting. I finished a heap of stuff. Can I remember? I don't think I'd talked about it yet, because I think I put it up here to remind me to talk about it. I hope so. I finished A Bargain in Silver. I thought that it was pretty good. I think, as I said before, it's going to be more as a whole than it is as a one. Not a lot happens in this. It's over a very few days. I'm excited to read the second one, which is the longest one. I'm going to wrap up when I've read all 4 of them. But yes, I finished this. It was a good time. Vampires are fun. I finished Foundryside. I thought this was great. Magic system, good. Family plots, good. Twists and turns, fantastic. Everything I want in a fantasy, yes. Got some gay in it as well. I'm here for it. I also finished Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. Was iffy on at the start, and then as the book went on, the more I liked it. I think it's a very good YA fantasy with a romance involved. It's not a YA fantasy romance, because for me those are very different things. If you are looking for something off that ilk, this is the latest one. It's a fairy tale retelling. If you're here for that, you're here for that. I wouldn't say it did anything particularly special. There wasn't anything hugely unique about it in terms of what I've read before. I don't know what you've read, so it might be completely unique for you, but I would say if that has piqued your interest, it is worth reading. It's a good time. Get through the beginning. Get to probably about the 50 or 60% of the way through, and I got the hang of where it was going. There's a lot of setup. And then I have just finished Animorphs 22, which I was genuinely unsure if I was going to get to, but I would like to film it this weekend, so that really needed doing. So yes, I finished that. Not going to talk about that too much. That video will be coming in a couple of weeks. Yeah, that's 6 out of my 7 books for the week done, and it's only the 4th. I have a Psalm for the Wild built that I will probably make a start on this evening, but you will have Tomorrow Judith coming to you very shortly to tell you all about that one, if I get to it at all. Otherwise, Tomorrow Judith can just take over from here. I shall speak to you tomorrow. Good morning, it is Saturday and the final day of the vlog. I hope you've enjoyed this time with us. I have a couple of updates. I'm pretty sure when I last spoke to you I'd just finished Animorphs. If not, I finished it, and then I also finished Psalm for the Wild built. I started reading it in the evening and just wanted to keep going, so I did. And it's absolutely lovely. Possibly not the best thing to read during a slight existential crisis, but maybe it's a good thing to read during an existential crisis. I'm honestly not sure. It did slightly lead to, I think, a bit of an anxiety dream, but that's not necessarily the book's fault. That feels like more of a me problem, but it is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't heard about it already, this is a novella by Becky who, as you know, I love. I will be buying a copy of this, of course, and it This is a world where at one point all of the robots just went away. They decided to leave. They said, you know what, we're going away, we're done. We pick up the story quite a way down the line, and our main character is a monk who decides they want to become a tea monk, which is a specific kind of monk, providing a specific kind of service. They're sort of dealing with not really knowing where their life is going, and the book goes from there, and obviously eventually they meet a robot who wants to know about humanity. And yeah, it's a really lovely story. In the kind of genres of novellas that we have, or the, not genre, feel of novellas we have, it's definitely one that leaves you wanting more, which I know some people really don't like because they just feel like it could have been a whole book. I liked the fact that it was a novella. I think it works well with the theme and the ideas behind it, but I do want more. I would like more, please and thank you. I read maybe a chapter, a chunk or so of In the Watchful City, but I haven't gone much further with that, so that'll probably bump either over the weekend or into next week. But suffice to say, on the 5th, is it the 5th today? Yes, it is the 5th of June and I have finished 7 books. So I'm ahead, which is good because this weekend I do need to film and edit an Animorphs video, so pretty good to have some space to do that. I'm going to head off and edit this vlog before we need to go to the garden centre, so I shall say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know what you've been up to and reading in the comments down below. I always love reading those. You can subscribe if you haven't already. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. Follow me on all of my social media. Come hang out on Discord. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. What's going on? All of my books are scattered around the room, finding all of the books, things that I need to talk about. Oh, that's too far.